Who's going?
You had, the first time you played Northwestern, you had the same amount of time to prepare for them, except you were coming off of an away game. Coming off of a home game, is there any difference with the amount of time you have to prepare? Like, does that give you an advantage at all versus an away game?
I think both teams know so much about each other, regardless that we only played one time, that both teams will be really prepared. We tried to worry about ourselves first and then go back. And it's been a while since we played each other. So what are they doing different? Is there different personnel playing more or less? And so we look at all that, and we're getting ready here in the next hour to go in the film room and show them some of the things that they're doing differently or have added since we last played. But our prep is, we're trying to stay routine. I'm a creature of habit, so I pretty much want them on the same kind of preparation schedule as they're used to make them feel comfortable.
The free throws were obviously a problem the last time you guys played. What other areas are you looking to improve, or what other areas would you like to see maybe try something different against these guys?
Certainly transition defense, I think, is the story of the game. They're really, really talented in transition, and there's games where 40% of their attempts and 40% of their points come off transition. They're probably more athletic in every single position out there, so we really have to get back in order to stop them. The first 7 minutes of the game, we saw Nia Coffey, but after that, she was injured. So we'll get a healthy and up-tempo Nia Coffey, and she poses lots of problems for our team. Foul shooting, it's one of those things that happens throughout the season. We haven't been a great foul shooting team, but to think that we missed 15 foul shots at one point, we missed our last 8 foul shots of the game. I think that's a fluke and hopefully won't happen again, but we had our chances at home against them the first time, and they got to learn why we had our chances, and we're going to try to teach them that here in the next 48 hours.
Were you nervous at all that game could have been a turning point in a negative way at that point in the season?
I was nervous that that kind of signified maybe a freshman class hitting the wall. We're so dominated by seniors and freshmen and very little in between that I wondered if that was a sign that we were hitting the wall and how were we mentally. But we regrouped once we got a bye week in February, and even though we didn't always win all our games in February, we certainly looked like we had more energy down the stretch.
You mentioned kind of after that game that could have been the point where you guys hit rock bottom. How far has this team kind of came since that game, obviously?
I think we learned a lot about ourselves. I think in February, not only did we play and compete against some very good teams, even though we didn't win, I think we gave ourselves some confidence that night in and night out, if we stuck to the game plan and tried to do what we were trying to do and really take away some of the strengths of our opponents, that we could upset people or we could play people. And again, it went back to that. We've never tried to be anything other than ourselves. We know who we are. There's teams that are more talented than us, but we want to be a thorn in people's side and play hard and shake hands at the end of the night, let the win-loss take care of itself. And I think the opportunity to be in postseasons re-energize this team. What a great way for the senior class to go out. What great experience early in the career for the big, large freshman class. And there's confidence against non-conference opponents. And now that we're 15-0 against non-conference opponents, I think our team, is excited to play Northwestern, but there's that little anxiety that it's a Big Ten team again, and that we've had our ups and downs moments this year against Big Ten teams. But I think they're excited about the opportunity, and they're clearly excited about being at home.
In both of the WNIT games, the opposing team has kind of ended the game on a run, in the last few minutes. I guess how much of a concern is that, and what can you do to prevent that from happening?
Sure, and that's one of the things that's been a story for us throughout the year is who wants that big shot, and how can we get that big shot when it's crunch time, and who wants to handle the ball and not hide from the ball late in games. And so it's a concern that we want to finish stronger, but I'm not going to complain that we're finding ways to win. And sometimes at this time of the year, we don't go back and analyze every single possession. It's survive in advance. It truly is. And you move on and you talk about what's next. And if this was November and we were finishing like that, we'd have a lot of discussions and a lot of film work. But, again, this team, Laren, is a great player and a go-to player, but when she gets taken away, who wants the ball late in the game? Who wants that foul shot late in the game if we're in a situation where we're going to be intentionally fouled? So, all growing points for this young team.
You mentioned Laren. She was able to get, out of her a little bit of a scoring slump that she'd had the past few games before Marquette. What did you see in that game that may have been different than the games before that, and what do you hope that she can take into Northwestern?
Well, certainly playing some non-conference opponents again that don't see us night in and night out, because what happens in conference play is not only do you prepare for your conference opponents, but you're watching your conference opponents even when you're not playing against other conference opponents. So everyone knows so much about you. It's sometimes nice to play non-conference opponents that don't know everything you're trying to do. But specifically, Laren was really able to get to the basket early, and you could see that give her a lot of energy, and it created a lot of offense, not only for her, but then it creates offense for other people, because our offense really thrives when we start to get penetration. So really happy for her to kind of have a pep in her step again, and she's played really well in practice again recently. And so I think you see the Laren that you saw throughout the season when she was putting up big numbers.
When she doesn't have games where she has as much offensive production, she talked about really just trying to impact the game wherever she can. What do you see as far as energy, leadership that in games when she's maybe not shooting the ball quite as well?
Well, she certainly has had a good year assist-wise. She's just a few assists away from being the a single-season record holder amongst freshmen at all time. She already is the point record holder of freshmen all time. So she had a really good year. So she understands she has to get other people involved when maybe it's not her night for shots falling or they're concentrating so much on her. The area where you're going to see her biggest improvement over the next 3 years is defense. She knows that she can be a better defensive player and give more effort at that end. You're gradually seeing it, but I think it's going to take the offseason, some strength training, and more commitment at that end to truly see her blossom. But she is trying to dig in defensively more than in the beginning of the year. She was, interested in trading baskets early in her career, and now she understands maybe when her night is not going offensively, how important it is for her to dig in and help us get stops.
Coach, they play primarily 6 players. Is there any thought that your depth maybe will pay some dividends towards the end of the second half in this one?
You hope so, but at this time of the year, everybody's bench is a little bit shortened. They got Carly Roser back, their starting point guard for years, to really supplement them recently. So now they're playing 7 people more consistently than they were early in the year. They're used to playing it, those heavy minutes, and not playing very much of their bench. So I don't know how much it is an advantage. I think foul trouble would be even more important. If we can stay out of foul trouble, who's going to be in foul trouble it will be a big story in the game if foul trouble becomes a part of it.
What stood out the most to you, or what impressed you the most from Northwestern's victory over IUPUI?
They dominated. Their defense really confused them, had them out of sync. They were rushed. I was really impressed with their pressing. So I think we're going to see more three-quarter court pressing, and it's not always to turn you over, but it leaves less time on the shot clock, and you're a little bit rushed. But they mixed defenses really well against IUPUI. They were in man, they were in zone, which was disguised as man. They pressed. I was really impressed with them defensively, and they jumped on them big. And unlike us, where Marquette made multiple runs at us late, IUPUI was never able to make a run back at them, and so it was a very comfortable win for Northwestern the other night.
And throughout the game, you also throughout practice, you mentioned them being the best shot blocking team in the Midwest. Just how much trouble do they create just from that?
Well, their length, their athleticism is fantastic, and even when they make mistakes, that second line in both man and zone can block shots and bail them out. We have to use pump fakes. They're going to go after block shots. So one of the things, when they don't get that shot blocked, they might be out of position, and we can offensive rebound. That was good to us the first game. We got 20 offensive rebounds because they went for a lot of shot blocks. They're out of position. We got to get those extra opportunities, and that's a big part. Again, is we've got to get into shot blockers. We got to pump fake some shot blockers. But when you have a team that really goes after a lot of block shots, you've got to offensive rebound against them.
Kind of a two-parter. You've been in this tournament format now for a week. Just how beneficial has it been to be at home And I guess you don't want to get too ahead of yourself, but is there a potential for a further home game should you win on Thursday night?
Well, first, I can't thank the administration enough for the commitment. We started talking about this in February about how important it would be to host. And what it could do to help grow our program. Even if we lose some money on the front end and we spend money to make this happen and put in aggressive bids, what it could do at the back end for our program, for recruiting, for our fan base. And I think you're seeing it happen. Of the 16 teams left in the tournament, only UTEP has had larger crowds than us now. And so only Montana has had a larger crowd that's out of the tournament. So we've had the third largest crowd of any school in the WNIT right now. So I really am thankful for our administration's vision on that, and it's coming true. I think there's a buzz in this community. I think there's a buzz in the stands, and hopefully it will only continue to grow, especially now that we're back from spring break. And so it's a huge part to be able to be at home, less wear and tear traveling. You're not as tired. You're comfortable. School's in session, so they're in their regular routine. We're in our regular practice block. And don't take for granted how important it is to be sleeping in your own bed.
Yeah.
And so being at home does so much for us, just for a benefit part, but for the growth of this program to get home games. I took this job, and the last time Indiana won in the postseason, they won at Bowling Green. And then they turned around after having to play at Bowling Green, a mid-major school. They went and played at Illinois State, a mid-major school. And I talked about the importance of that not happening. And, be able to host our third straight game in the WNIT is a credit to the administration believing that there's a place at this university for women's basketball and for women's basketball to be supported.
Thanks, guys.